Is up, everybody? My name is Wes. This is Topshelfers, and today we're going to be reviewing Five Nights at Freddy's 2. In the background is video from when I streamed it. Hi, me. What's up? Yeah, we. I'm still trying to get into the groove of these new ways of reviewing. I'm hoping someone who's watched some of my old ones will give me some insight if they're liking this better or the old way better. Either way, I can do. I figure having the game in the background might kind of at least give it some how do I say, like, insight to how I'm reviewing. So if this is your first time watching one of my game reviews, I rate games on 10, sometimes 11 different categories on a scale of 1 to 10, those categories being graphics and visuals, gameplay mechanics, story and narrative, audio and sound design, replay value, difficulty and balance, world design and exploration, performance and technical stability, community and multiplayer, innovation and originality, and hours versus dollars. Now, all of my reviews are standalone reviews, meaning I'm not reviewing them against other games that I've done. It's just strictly this game and this game alone. So I think that it can get kind of confusing with how I'm trying to set up all these game reviews because one score might get higher than another, but that doesn't mean that I like that game more. It just means that it's a better made game, right? So, with that being said, we're going to hop into our Five Nights at 2 Freddy review. I don't know what I just said, but it will work out. So, graphics and visuals, the quality of the game's graphics, including art style, realism, animation quality, and overall visual appeal. I feel like this is a step up from the last game, as I am sure most people would agree with me on. It looks better, it's more crisp, it's creepier, it's more defined with all the animatronics. The jump scares are better. The attention to detail is better. Overall, I think it is just across the board better in every single aspect. And Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is one of the best in the whole entire franchise, in my personal opinion. So, with that being said, though, I am going to give it an 8 on graphics and visuals. Gameplay mechanics. So, how smooth and intuitive the controls are, the complexity and depth of gameplay systems, and the overall enjoyment playing this game. I do think it was a lot of fun to play, and it was difficult at times. When you get into that final night, like, you really are having to min-max your movement, and you're managing several things at once, making sure that you're not you got to watch your vents, you got to watch Foxy, you got to use your flashlight, you got to use your mask, you got to wind the toy box. Like, you have to do all of these things at once, otherwise you get cooked. You have to. So I do like the gameplay mechanics in this one. I think that they are more enjoyable than the first game, and definitely more enjoyable than the third game. It only gets better as time. Well, that's not true. The spoiler: the third Five Nights at Freddy sucks, but I feel like it improved on all the gameplay mechanics from the first one. So I'm going to give this a 7.5. Oh, maybe 7.5. Story and narrative, the quality of the storyline, character development, dialogue, and how engaging and immersive the overall narrative experience is. Like I said about this in the last Five Nights at Freddy's games, like, the story is not in your face. It kind of feels like a Dark Souls-esque situation where you need to search out for the lore in all of the behind-the-scenes stuff, or read between the lines with all the different things that are being said on screen and in the game, and you got to kind of put two and two together. There's not a lot of story just told to you directly, but there is a little bit through the phone guy and everything like that. With that being said, I'm going to give it a 6. Audio and sound design, the quality of the sound effects, music, and voice acting, and how well they contribute to the atmosphere and the gaming experience. I mean, this game's all about audio cues and sound. And I feel like it is only improved from the first one, making it even better. The sounds in this game are creepy. The music box is creepy. Balloon Boy just on screen. Absolutely hate that guy. He is the worst. But overall, everything is very eerie, very creepy. You'll love the sound effects in this game. Voice acting, I mean, there's not a ton of voice acting. A little bit that is there is pretty solid. Kind of is an iconic character who speaks in this game. But yeah, sound design and sound effects are great in this game. I'm going to give it an 8. Replay value. The extent to which the game encourages replayability through multiple endings, side quests, new game plus, multiplayer modes, or other factors. It's tough with these Five Nights at Freddy's games because there is like more difficult nights that you can do after you beat the game. There's usually night 6 or 7 or challenge modes, or you pick and choose the difficulty and try and beat it. So there is that factor. Do I necessarily want to go back and play every single Five Nights at Freddy's games from the start? No, but I am like teetering on the fence of wanting to go and beat all the challenge modes just to like add it to my mantle of gaming achievements. I really do, because they are that level of difficult. I put this on, I put some of these like ultimate custom night 50-20 modes, or ultimate, or the custom nights and Five Nights at 1 and 2, like they're up there with difficulty with your your legendary solos in Halo, or your getting over it. It's like, it is RNG based, it's luck, and it is really understanding the game mechanics. But with that being said, I don't feel like I want to go back and just play the game to play the game. So with that being said, I'm going to give it a 5.5. Difficulty and balance. How well the game is balanced in terms of challenge, difficulty progression, and fairness, catering to both casual and hardcore players. The one thing that I've noticed after beating all these Five Nights at Freddy's games now, I have beat them all, and then we'll just do weekly reviews of them. They would be extremely difficult if you do not have people helping you, or you do not have people, or you aren't watching guides. Like, I feel like I was able to beat the majority of these games fairly handily because I had people watching me while I streamed it, like giving me tips and giving me pointers. I feel like if you're going into the games completely blind and you don't want to look at any guides or have anyone help you, they would be extremely difficult. Even the first couple nights, because it's one of those games where you have to tell yourself you're going in and you're going to lose over and over again until something clicks, right? Until you realize the patterns or figure out what you need to do. That's the type of games these are. If you're into that, it's a lot of fun. I do think it ramps up in difficulty really fast. When you get to night 3 into 4, you have to know what you're doing, and then night 5 is your most challenging besides the custom ones. I like difficult games. You'll see that over time. Like, I beat a lot of very hard games. I find that challenging to be very rewarding. I like to talk about my mantle of achievements in gaming. And these games are right up there. So I'm gonna give this a 8. World design and exploration. The richness and detail of the game world, the diversity of environments, and the sense of discovery and exploration offered to the player. Kind of talked about this in the last review. You aren't necessarily exploring anything, right? There's different rooms through these cameras that we're panning through, and they all, oops, didn't mean to do that. They all have their own unique, like, room design, but it's not a exploration game. I do really appreciate the creator of this game's attention to detail in all these rooms, and he does hide lore in the rooms, right? Like, that's part of the fun, is figuring out, what does this thing in this random room mean? Why does that tie into the story? What does it mean to the bigger picture? Who are these characters? Like, all of that is part of the Five Nights experience, which is super cool. You don't see that a lot in gaming nowadays. But it's not a game where you're walking around and exploring. You have to explore through these cameras. So it's its own special type of exploration, but it's not super diverse. So with that, I'm going to give it a 6. Performance and technical stability. So how well the game runs technically, including factors such as frame rate, loading times, optimization across different platforms, the absence of bugs and glitches. I don't remember any bugs or glitches in FNAF 2. I felt like it ran just fine. I don't remember there being any issues. I guess maybe the loading screens between deaths is a little slow, but it's not enough to be like, ugh, but it's not super fast. So I'll give it an 8.5. We talked about this last time. This is all community and multiplayer is always going to get a 10. The FNAF community is still probably the best that I've ever been a part of. Everyone is so welcoming and so excited and so passionate about their game and their community, and they just want to share all of the lore and share their passion so more people enjoy it, and which in turn continues to produce more and more games, and now going into its second movie and talks of TV shows and all that type of stuff. So it's always going to get a 10 for me in the community aspect. Innovation and originality, the extent to which the game introduces fresh ideas, innovative gameplay mechanics, or unique twists on existing genres, contributing to its overall creativity and distinctiveness. Obviously, the core mechanics of this are the same as the first game, but it does add more to it. There's more mechanics, there's more things you got to look into, but you are just still surviving for 5 nights with cameras and monitors, and you got to try and manage that. But alongside that, there's now a mask and a music box and more things that you have to manage. You know, it's a micromanage type of game. I don't think that they reinvented the wheel with this. I think they polished it and made it more enjoyable and more smooth. So I'm going to give it a 7. And last but not least, the hours versus dollars. So let's pull up our old Steam here. We got Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So we played for 5.5 hours, and it cost us $7.99. It's almost $1 an hour. And you know, to be fair, if I end up going back and doing the challenging modes and all that type of stuff, it will be probably closer to 10 hours, 12 hours for $8. I think it's well worth the hours versus dollars, so I'm going to give it a 9. The only time I'll give a game a 10 is if it's free and it produces a lot of hours, so a 9 is really good there. All right, so let's break out our handy-dandy calculator here, and let's get this score. So 8, 7.5, 6, 8, 5.5, 8, 6, 8.5, 10 for that community and multiplayer, 7, and 9. So that ends up being an 8 point. We're going to round it up to 4, 8.4 out of 10, which I think is a perfect spot for this. Now you may be wondering, hey, I watched your Five Nights at Freddy's 1 game and that got a higher score than your Five Nights at Freddy's 2 game, but you say Five Nights at Freddy 2 is a better game. That is correct. You know, like I said, I try not to do these reviews based off of other games. I like to review itself. So if we look up here, I have my Five Nights at Freddy's review, and you know, there's some areas that innovation and originality, it got a lower score here. World design and exploration got a higher score because it's new, it's unique, it's fresh. Replay value, story and narrative, the scores are going to differ, but just know that whether or not I like a game more, these reviews are just by themselves, not compared to other games, because I want to be fair to each game. So, all right, let me know if you agree or disagree. Are you a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 or FNAF in general? What's your take on it? What's your take on the community? What's your take on the franchise as a whole? Please let me know down below. It's been a wonderful month and a half for me venturing into this FNAF community and FNAF's franchise. We are getting close to the end of it, but it has been a absolutely wonderful time. So got to get through all these reviews, and I have a couple more challenges I want to do, and then we'll see where we land. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.